where the registration totals are, I believe the threshold is less than 6% as far as the registration comparisons between the two parties. But with that said, I think that there's clearly the possibility that you could see one chamber flip or the other. If you follow the pollsters and the pundits, it appears that there's a very strong possibility that you could see the Senate tied 15-15, which, most legislative bodies have an odd number of members to where you would prevent that. But that is not the case with the Senate. It actually happened about 24 years ago where there was a 1 2 year cycle where the parties were split 15-15, and they had to come together and come to an agreement on how they were to manage, and they came up with a very interesting sort of compromise on that, where there was a Republican that became Senate president, but they actually gave half of the committee chairmanships, including the Appropriations Committee, to Democrats. And then they also had a split where one party got to decide on which committees the bills were assigned to, and the other party controlled whether those bills advanced to a floor vote. And so you would have a similar scenario if we were to get that 15-15 tie. And looking at it from other than a partisan perspective, we also know for sure we're going to have a new House Speaker, and we're going to have a new chairman of the House Transportation Committee. Both of those individuals ran for other office. They were term limited out in the House and ran for other office. And so we know that even if there's no change in partisan control, there's going to be significant differences, particularly in the House. And so until all of that gets hammered out, we sort of kind of don't know what the challenges and for the current year. Now, of course, they're required to pass a balanced budget, or of course, we're dealing with future revenues and expenditures, so it has to be good faith effort to have that balanced budget. But they had to make adjustments roughly to the tune of about 1.3 billion to set that budget straight for the current year. Literally 5 days after that budget was passed on June 15th, the May revenue collections came out, and they were roughly 240 million above what was projected. Later on, June collections also came out similarly high. Now, when they closed out last year, expenditures were a little bit higher than what was anticipated too, but the net result was, as the state currently projects it, they finished last year about 410 million in the black. So we've got a 410 million carry forward balance. And then a couple of weeks ago, the July numbers came out and they were 80 million above what was projected. So here we are, roughly only about 2 months into the current fiscal year, and we're already half a billion above where we were supposed to be, or where we were projected to be. So we're only 2 months in. We've got a long ways to go, but I think being a half a billion above where you thought you were going to be, or in the black, I think is a really good place to be, particularly for infrastructure as we're trying to do all that we can to address the level of underinvestment that is out there. So I think, yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just curious, how is it possible that they underestimated budget revenue coming in by $500 million?
Well, I can tell you, you go back 2, 3 years ago, they got it wrong by over 2 billion. So yeah, there've been some pretty significant swings, or they've certainly been off. Now, I just took a shot at them as far as the being off by 2 billion a couple of years ago. I will say that the federal and state responses to COVID and the projected dramatic loss in revenue that didn't materialize. In fact, we continued to see revenue grow, was hugely responsible, I think, for them being way off. And Arizona wasn't unique in that situation. I think a lot of states went through the same thing. But as far as the more recent, just looking at the last 3 months, yeah, I don't have a good explanation for that. But we'll take it. It beats being in the red. Uh,
No doubt. Hopefully, we'll continue that trend. It's just a little concerning, if 9 months, 10 months from now they went and cut the budget the way they did, and then the revenue projections were so off.
So yes, that's always a challenge, and of course it'll be about that April, May timeframe when they will hopefully pass a budget for the following year. And so that's really going to be the key, is what the projections are in April and May. Right now, it's looking like they will have some one-time revenues available. And so for that reason, and I believe you have later on your agenda, the consideration for projects to place in the RTAC priority project legislation. And while we would prefer that they increase the permanent ongoing revenues that feed into transportation, and we'll continue to work and push on that end. But in the interim, if there are one-time revenues available, we are doing all that we can to prioritize directing as much of that as possible to transportation. We've been fairly successful in that the last 4 years. And we'll continue to do that again. We're going to put that bill forward, and we'll make the case. I think the bill and the projects, the unfunded projects that are in it, are really good examples of the impacts of what happens when you don't fund your infrastructure and these projects that aren't being built. And I think that has resonated and had an impact on legislators, and so we'll push that legislation again. Um, I think the other big pursuit that we will have is with the Arizona Smart Fund, where we have, if we stay on current course, over, going back 3 years and 2 years ago, there's been 62.5 million that was appropriated to the Smart Fund. We're now down to, I think, just under 20 million. And so if that trend were to hold or even accelerate, chances are this time next year, we will have zeroed out the Smart Fund balance. And so if there is revenue available, we'll be making a really hard push to direct additional funding into that Smart Fund. We think it's a tremendous way to maximize the federal dollars that we're able to bring back to Arizona. There's at least a 5-to-1 return on those federal grants that we are putting in. So we think that's a huge priority. I think that Metro Plan, you've already set an agenda of asking for 35 million. Um, RTAC has not set a specific level that we want to pursue, other than if funding is available, we will pursue it. And I don't think that 35 million is out of the range of what RTAC could possibly get behind. And so I think that'll be a big priority for us as well. And so with that, I think that's, as our agenda looks right now, that's how things are shaping up.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Comments? Um, Yes, member Supervisor Begay.
Well, how many projects do you have right now? That you're on here, it says recommendation, staff recommends the board consider approving Greater Arizona funding project initiatives.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, the process that we've agreed to, and this is the RTAC board, but prior to the board taking consideration, this is something that we've worked with very closely with all of the COG and MPO directors across the state. The previous level that we pursued last year was 400 million. And, we tried to find a happy medium between not coming in with an amount that we felt was going to be so totally outrageous that legislators wouldn't take it seriously, but at the same time be large enough to where we could fund some impactful projects across the state. And so that 400 million was the level that we agreed to. And for equity, we decided to provide some regional balance. And so each rural COG and MPO was allocated an amount that was representative of their percentage of the rural population in the state. And so this last year, because inflation in the construction industry has been so high, we decided to increase that 400 million by 20%. The logic being that if we had projects that we were trying to get funded last year, if we were going to pursue those same projects again, we couldn't do it at the same price level. We were going to have to increase it if we were going to pursue those same projects. So each COG and MPO was again allocated an amount based on their percentage of the rural population. And it is each COG and MPO's discretion as far as how they utilize their allocation. So it's entirely up to you as far as how many projects you decide to submit from your region. So there's no set number. I think last year, the bill was roughly 92 projects statewide.
Mr. Chair and Member McGay, if I could add to that, we actually have this as a two-part agenda item. So Mr. Adams here was kicking us off, and then Planner Tabell is going to talk to you specifically about what we're proposing in that RTAC bill. So there's a second part coming.
Great, thank you for that clarification. In that case, are there any other questions for Mr. Adams? All right, thank you for the presentation. Good to see you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Mrs. Tabell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thank you, Kevin. So as Kevin noted, we have 4 projects to put on the RTAC bill. And our allocation based on MPO region population is $26 million. And we are presenting 4 projects to you today for your consideration for approval that have skin in the game, partnership, and that are timeliness and shovel ready. So if they were to get awarded, they would be ready to execute the project, and that are also of importance to our legislators, particularly for rural communities, tribal communities, and things like post-wildfire flooding that we experience in the region. So the projects you have in front of you, there are 4 projects. One is the city's Lone Tree Overpass improvement, and they're in the request of $18.2 million. Coconino County has a $5.6 million project for the US 89 and Burris Roundabout, which came from a road safety audit from ADOT. And the next 2 projects are match for Mountain Line, one for a bus maintenance facility As you've seen around town, there are these long articulated buses, right? They have that accordion in the middle, and the maintenance bays do not offer enough space to fix the buses, particularly in the winter. So a match for that in the amount of $2 million. And then a match for 4 new electric buses. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and the action here is we recommend that the board adopt the RTAC projects as presented.
Are there any questions from board members about the projects presented? No? Okay. Director Morley, did you have something? No? All right. In that case, do I have a motion to approve the projects, the RTEC projects as presented? We have a motion by Board Member McCarthy. You have a second?
I'll second.
And we have a second by Board Member Sweet or Vice Chair Sweet. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item. Consider consider trip diary survey award. Mr. Dave Wessel.
Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez, members of the board, David Wessel, Planning Manager. Looking for an award of the Trip Diary Survey for $59,740 to the West Group Research. The Trip Diary Survey is something we have done every 6 years. It's time again, 2006, 12, 18, and now 2024. We try to do it around this time of year to capture that window when school is in, weather is good enough for walking and biking so we can capture those trips. It's really a two-part effort with 1 day of traveling. So here we ask a random sample of people to track their trips for 1 day. There's also then a survey with demographic information and attitudes towards current transportation services and facilities. We use this for calibrating our trip diary, for calibrating our travel demand management. We have too many acronyms with TD something or other. Also, it's used in travel demand management in terms of garnering information on state of the practice by employers and use of those facilities by employees who participate in the survey. We'll be doing a random sample of 5,000 people, or inviting 5,000. We hope to hit a mark of 400, which would actually be a high water mark for us in that sample. With that, again, we're looking for the board to award the contract to West Group Research for $59,740, and we will be asking Chair Vasquez to sign that. We'll be sending it out electronically upon approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions by board members? Member McCarthy.
Thank you. I thought TD stood for today. But anyway, didn't we do some tracking by cell phones a year or two ago, or refresh my memory?
So, yeah, so we had, I think in the years 17, 18, and 19, a contract with Streetlight Data Incorporated to gather cell phone data and trip behavior. It's much more, a much larger sample, as you can guess, than the 400 that we're hoping to receive here, and relatively disaggregated, but in terms of actually finding trip chains and trip purposes, it's very limited. You can look at home-based work trips and kind of home-based other trips, but whether it's shopping or a variety of other things, you really have to do a lot of data mining. And there's not a lot of demographics necessarily associated with that, except via, broad census data.
Right. Thank you, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions by board members? Okay, in that case, Can I get a motion to award the Trip Diary survey contract to West Group Research in the amount of $59,740?
So moved.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Sweet. Do I have a second? Second by Member Begay. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is consider Safe People campaign contract with Mountain Mojo Group. Staff member Kim Austin.
Thank you, Chair Vasquez and members of the board. Just to give a little review, because we have had summer, and in FY24, MetroPlan Executive Board approved spending $80,000 from the carbon reduction program to hire a marketing firm. And this marketing firm would create an educational and branded safety campaign. This campaign will support Vision Zero, the Vulnerable Road Users Study, the Regional Transportation Safety Plan, and Safe Routes to School. It will educate on various topics that haven't been decided exactly yet, but could include navigating existing infrastructure and future infrastructure, bike and pedestrian safety, roundabouts, crossings, driving safely in neighborhoods, and other various safety topics. So we went through the RFP proposal process this summer, and we received 4 proposals. And those proposals were evaluated and scored on the following: experience of assigned staff, creativity and understanding of the scope of work, and the schedule of fees. And you can see the ranking of those proposals. And number 2 was ranked the highest, and they are for Mountain Mojo Group. And so I'm requesting approval from the board to have a contract with the Mountain Mojo Group for the Safer People campaign. And I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions by board members at this time? No? Okay. In that case, can I get a motion to approve the contract with Mount Mojo Group for the Safer People campaign?
So move.
We have a motion by Board Member Begay.
I'll second.
Second by Board Member McCarthy. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, next item is consider transportation alternatives intergovernmental agreement with City of Flagstaff staff member Corey Cooper.
Okay, obviously not Corey Cooper, but I wanted to explain the Safe Routes and give you a little bit of a background. It is part of the Travel Demand Management Program with MetroPlan, and Safe Routes to School funding comes from the Transportation Alternatives and ADOT. There are 2 tracks to Safe Routes to School. There's an infrastructure tract and a non-infrastructure tract. The Safe Routes to School programs can do the following. I listed them up there. Improve the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists, benefit the environment, help support climate action goals, increase the quality of life within a community, decrease traffic congestion, provide opportunities for people to become more physically active and rely less on motor vehicles. So the non-infrastructure tract is the little icon you have there. It consists of 6 E's: education, evaluation, encouragement, equity, engagement, and engineering. So the engineering E is the infrastructure piece. I don't know if that, anyway. So with that, I wanted to introduce our Safe Routes to School coordinator, who is going to discuss the infrastructure piece, Corey Cooper.
Thank you, Kim, Chairman, members of the board. So this is a infrastructure program that I'll be managing the procurement with Mr. Johnson, with the city managing the actual planning and programming of the program. So you can see here the budget, whereas the city is being asked for the 5.7% match of 28,500 to bring the federal funds of 471,500 up to the total of $500,000 for this project. So one of the two projects within this project is the proposed improvements between Sanawa Middle School and Knowles Elementary. I've got those illustrated here on the chart or on the screen with two yellow stars. You also can see the light blue star, and that also indicates the presence of the Fox Glen Park skate park, very popular area. So just wanted to highlight the travel routes for students in that area. Here you can see another map that shows some of the crash data between 2017 and 2023. While this one doesn't have as much activity as some that you will see in a moment, just wanted to show the area of concern in that area where kids are moving between those schools and the park. So the second project within the overarching project is the 4th Street corridor of Cedar Lockett, 4th Street down to 6th. And so you can see on this map as well, several of yellow stars illustrating the different schools in that area, as well as another blue star showing the community center with the skate park there. So as you all probably know, tons of traffic congestion in this area. And so this is a area of concern or area that we want to focus on with these projects. Wanted to show a few. Yes, sir.
Can we have access to those slides? Or do we have them in our packet? Because I'm not finding it.
They're not in the packet, but we can get you a copy of them.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So wanted to show some more crash data from that corridor. This one is for MEMS with Puente just up the street and Forest just kind of diagonal, and then CCC on the other diagonal. And you can see with all the yellow circles, these are vehicular crashes, and then some of the blue pedestrian crashes in there as well. So it's a very active with the transportation crashes there. Here's one from Coconino High School, and once again, you can see several automobile crashes as well as a couple of the pedestrian crashes in that corridor where students are making their way to and from school. Then here we have one at Killip, which is our most active with regard to the crash data. You can see the yellow with the vehicles. There's a couple red cyclist crashes and then a couple of pedestrian crashes also. So this is another area within that corridor that we really want to focus some of the engineering scope of this project. So this is an action item. We are requesting that you approve this IGA that would formalize the agreement that you already had to contribute that 5% funds match. Are there any questions from the board?
Any questions? Board Member Begay?
I have a question. So this IGA, has it been shared with the board?
My apologies. I'm fairly new. It was my understanding that it had been, but I'm not certain.
I believe it's an attachment in the packet. I can look through and see.
I don't read big documents. No, just kidding. Make sure that we have it.
I can provide just a quick summary of it. So the agreement is that Metro Plan applied on behalf of multiple agencies for this grant. And so now in order to move the funds between agencies, the IGA is needed It also outlines the roles and responsibilities. So we'll manage the procurement process, but really it's the city that is directing the project and will provide oversight of the contractor and direction for that contractor. So that's the basis of what the IGS is.
Thank you.
All right, in that case, do I have a motion to approve the Transportation Alternative Intergovernmental Agreement with the City of Flagstaff?
So moved.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Sweet. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Member McCarthy. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. All right, thank you very much. Next one, item number 5, consider resolution 2025-01, state match for rural transportation smart application. We have staff member Sandra Tavel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The Arizona Smart Fund has experienced recent statute changes to expand applicant eligibility, meaning that if you are an eligible applicant for a federal discretionary grant for surface transportation, you are now eligible to apply for matching funds through Arizona Smart. And that has had impact for MPOs, COGs, and transit agencies. And so there is a new updated application that is currently out for public comment. And MetroPlan, we are working ahead of the curve here, and we are seeking to apply for partial matching funds for our Safe Streets Master Plan. So a few months ago, we won a Safe Streets and Roads for All federal discretionary grant to create a Safe Streets Master Plan in partnership with the City of Flagstaff, Mountain Line, and Coconino County. And we are always looking to leverage funds and partner funds. So we want to seek matching funds through the Arizona Smart Fund for $296,250. The new updated application that's pending through the Arizona Smart program requires a board resolution to apply for the funds. I want to talk about the state of the Arizona Smart Fund and a little bit of caveats here. So a cost benefit of working ahead of the curve is maybe there won't be monies. So if you look at this table and you look at the different categories of the Smart Fund, we qualify under the municipalities over 10,000. And so if you look at where the arrow is, there's $849,000 left. We have learned through our partners at ADOT that there are 3 pending applications in this category. Another rule of the Arizona Smart Fund is you can't apply for matching funds if the grant agreement is not in place. So because of the project timeline for the Safe Streets Master Plan, we would like to have a grant agreement in place by November or December to go with the project timeline. So this $849,000 with the 3 pending applications and through the discretion of the State Board of Transportation, the funds may be depleted. So we may not get awarded or they may run out depending on how the timing of this shakes out. And if that happens, if the funds do get depleted and we can't apply, we'll consider writing a letter to the state board to illustrate the demand of this fund, because as Kevin mentioned earlier, it's a really great way to leverage dollars in our communities through the Smart Fund. So, excuse me, the item that we are requesting for consideration and approval is the board resolution so that we may apply for said funds. This is subject to change upon ADOT finalization of the application processes. And within that resolution also, it gives our executive director the power to sign subsequent agreements if the funding should be awarded. And with that, I am happy to answer questions. We are requesting your approval for the resolution.
Are there any questions or comments from board members? Okay, in that case, can I have a motion to approve the resolution 2025-01 as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Sweet. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Member McCarthy. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, consider adopting the calendar year 2025 Executive Board Meeting Calendar. Metro Plan staff, Ms. Karen Mueller.
Honorable Chair, members of the board, we have the meeting calendar here for the calendar year 2025. You will notice one deviation from the typical meeting day on the first Thursday of each month is the January 9th meeting. We moved it to the second Thursday for that month because of the holidays previous and the ability to get packets and information ready. At that time, you will also notice we have the annual strategic advance planned for Thursday, February the 13th. We're looking toward planning on meeting at the same place as we met last year, if possible, at ADOT. Also, we have the July and August summer recess in place for the executive board. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions at this time? In that case, can I get a motion to approve the calendar for year 2025? We have a motion by Board Member Begay. I have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Vice Chair Sweet. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item, number 7, FY 2024 year-end financial report. Metro Plan staff, Ms. Kate Morley.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. This is our quarterly finance report, but it also happens to be the one that we are reporting out the end of FY 24. So in the blue, you see our adopted budget, and in the orange are our actuals. So overall, we did spend less money than we had budgeted, but all that money will carry forward into future years. A little bit on the specifics of these categories, we saved a little bit of money in salaries and employee-related expenses associated with the delay in hiring the Safe Routes to School coordinator position. We had anticipated that staff member would come on board around December. And we also were delayed in hiring the TDM planner for about 6 months. So that's where some of those salary and ERE savings are. On the operating side, we had savings in our membership line and IT expenses, not spending as much there as we had anticipated. So those are key items. Travel is the category in which we spent more than anticipated, and that was because we received a grant that allowed for us to take Metro Plan staff, board member suite, 2 staff from the City of Flagstaff and 2 staff from Mountain Line to the National Association of City Transportation Officials. So it was offset by grant revenue to do that, but that is why we see that large, nearly doubling of the travel budget in FY24. And we did adjust the FY25 budget to create more capacity for travel moving forward as well. And then finally, projects. You see, we did not spend as much on projects as anticipated. That's a number of things. We thought we would have fully met our obligation to the City of Flagstaff for the downtown mile, but didn't receive all the invoices yet to be fully billed out for that. That will happen in FY25. We thought we would hire a consultant for some items on West Route 66 that we haven't been invoiced for yet either. So just delays on some of the projects. None of the projects have gone away. Everything is still underway, and we continue to move forward with them. So just really carrying those forward into FY25. But that is why there's the big gap in projects. And so, like I said, overall, did not spend the entire budget. If we break that down into the pie chart of the categories, which we usually show you, you can see them here. The big change here is typically we spend more on projects than on salaries and employee-related expenses. But this year, because those projects were lagging a little bit and that we're doing more in-house, quite frankly, we're not hiring consultants for as many activities. We're seeing that shift in the pie chart, and those 2 blue categories are usually reversed. So with that, that is my end of year financial report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions at this time by board members? No? All right, in that case.
No
Okay.
action.
No action? Oh, okay. Well, then, in that case, thank you for that presentation. Please proceed to the next one.
Thank you. The next one is our key performance indicators. These were the KPIs that we adopted alongside the goals of the strategic plan as a way for the board to be able to see and track the progress that we're making on that strategic plan. There are 4 goals, and they've been assigned out for 4 different staff to each kind of track and monitor one. Not that they're responsible for all the activities within it, but being the person responsible. So the first one is maximize funding, and that is Sandra Tavel.
Thank you, Kate. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, our first goal is to maximize funding for transportation projects and programs through 4 objectives. The first one is aligning capital and programmatic needs with priorities and fund sources. We have done that through our strategic grants plan. The second one is expanding match and revenue generating options. We just discussed the SMART Fund, and then I am in the midst of writing a white paper on 10 creative local match options that many of you heard about over the last year. I'm flushing those out. Coordinating partners' legislative priorities related to transportation. And the last one is ensuring good standing with funders through 4 ways that we demonstrate that progress. One is number of funding opportunities sought, number of funding opportunities obtained, developing an annual legislative agenda and work plan, and also clean audits and reviews. So I will show you how we concluded fiscal year 2024. It was a really good year for grants for us in our region. So Metro Plan and partners as an entire region pursued $128 million and were awarded $66 million. We pursued 30 grants and were awarded 16, meaning the Metro Plan region and all of our partners. On the right, you can see the bars. The blue bars and the yellow bars are something that Metro Plan either led and or was awarded. We are not always the lead applicant, but we do help our members with grant writing, editing, support letters, legislative education, strategy, and things like that. And then the lines are our regional partners that got their own awards. For example, the Fish and Game in partnership with ADOT got the wildlife crossings and things that we supported but had less of a hand in. And so collectively, that gives you the results on the left. And they differ a little bit. We showed you a similar graphic in June, and the numbers were a little bit different because we played with the data. Since we are kind of in the middle of our partnerships, last June, we kind of mixed up some numbers and added them. And so last June, they're bigger than they look now, but we've combed through the data, and this is our final snapshot for fiscal year 2024 for grant seeking. Next one is legislative agenda and audits. So in fiscal year 2024, we were really active in encouraging and educating on the Arizona SMART to change their statute to expand eligibility to MPOs, COGS, transit, and tribes. The way the statute was originally written, it was limiting and excluding those eligible applicants for federal discretionary grants. So we worked really hard to help expand that legislation. And we also did a lot of project advocacy through the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council and through the Arizona Rural Transportation Summit that takes place every fall. Then regarding audits and reviews, we wrapped up our independent single audit, which was our first year of getting audited in fiscal year 2023. Now we are in the midst of 2024. They're always a year behind because it's a look back. And then for our ADOT audit, we completed that, and that audit takes place at ADOT's discretion. So all is well in audits and reviews. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions from board members?
Thank you.
Please continue. Thank you. Next item, Route 66, West Route 66 operational assessment update. No, am I at the
Sorry.
wrong place? They're still
Sure.
on this?
We have,
Okay.
we have
One
3
more?
others. I'm a little slow getting up here to.
Okay, no worries. Sorry about
maintain
that. We're
the-
still on
maintain the
number 8.
momentum.
Mr. Dave Wessel. You guys didn't give me an order of who's going right now, so I got
Okay.
confused.
Who's next? Mandia and then Kim. So we're good. All right. Second key performance indicator. indicator has to do with delivering plans that meet partner and community needs. We're looking to be transparent in our process, focus on the disadvantaged communities, and get them involved in those processes, make sure we have good data, and yes. Is it? Nope. There we go. No problem. Is that better? Yeah, much better. There we go. Thank you, though. And that's then position partners for successful implementation of the plans. So we want to involve them in our indicators, kind of soup to nuts throughout the process in scoping and final recommendations. Make sure our demographics of those participating reflect community demographics. Look at new data and get policies implemented. So here's our progress. We're holding steady, as you can see across these 4 measures. We do expect to see some new additions to these. I don't know that they'll move the needle here, but work on the Safe Streets Master Plan, West 66, and the Trip Diary Survey itself. We'll see these moving in this next quarter. As far as plans, the 66 assessment, you'll hear more about. We're making progress there. Road user safety plan is under development. The Trip Diary, we're kicking off with the award today. And the Safe Streets Master Plan, I've been working closely with Chris Fair at the City of Flagstaff Traffic Section on developing a list of stakeholders and stakeholder interview questions that we should be starting here shortly. You heard Sandra mention the Creative Local Match White Paper is under works. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Please continue.
Good afternoon, board members. So goal 3 is to build Metro Plan's visibility in the community. And of course, we have several objectives with this, to educate and inspire and empower individuals in our planning process. And a lot of this will be done through our public events, our demonstration projects, and of course, our TDM program and Safe Routes to School program. We also want to just expand our visibility in the community generally. Folks do not know what Metro Plan is or what we do, so we're slowly getting there. And then, you know, as part of that promotion to really showcase the value that we bring to the community through assisting our partners, going after federal grants, et cetera. So we have these 4 categories here that I'll run through real quickly. Number 1 is for our public outreach and events attended or organized. So for quarter 3, we did increase that. That includes a couple of community events along with the Cheshire Asphalt Art event. Number 2 is the number of people or organizations interacted with, substantially raised in quarter 4. Once again, Bloomberg, Cheshire project. Item 3 is the number of new followers or subscribers to our social media. That continues to edge up a little bit as we go through each quarter. And then the number of people reached through other media. And these are typically, in our case, direct mailers. And we did do a pretty robust outreach via postcards to the Cheshire neighborhood, informing them about the project. And there's also some included in there from the West Route 66 project. And here's some information on our social media. As I've mentioned previously, Facebook is performing well in terms of people interacting with our content, sharing our content, liking our content. However, in total, we have 130 folks that follow us. Instagram has less of that reactions that we receive from Facebook, but we do have a very large following at 271 folks. So the information's still getting out there. It's just not as interactive as the other platform. And a lot of the information that we're providing on social media, we are now linking to content on our website. So it just directs them directly to the project or information they're looking for. Once again, it kind of builds our brand. It also gives them access to other information of who we are, what we do, and when our meetings and such are. So that top right shows our website visits, which have increased substantially. And I believe that is it for my update, but I do want to take a moment to thank Aubrey Flores for her hard work on our social media campaign and really getting the word out in public outreach as well. Or these numbers wouldn't happen without her. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yes, Vice Chair Sweet.
I don't really have a question. I do want to give a compliment. When I got on MetroPlan, no one knew what the heck I was talking about. But now when I talk, a lot of my friends and the people that I socialize with understand what MetroPlan is. I think the Cheshire Project was a huge boost. And if we can keep that momentum going, I would like to see our Facebook followers increase. And I think my personal page has like 1,600. So I think we can do it. I'll invite my friends. I don't know.
Yes, please do.
I didn't realize it was, that we have room to improve on that one. But I do just want to compliment you. I think the social media, the outreach has been incredible. So good job.
Thank you.
Hello again. I am reporting on goal number 4, which is encouraging mode shift. My objectives are to conduct community-oriented multimodal demonstration and pilot projects, implement programs at K through 12 schools, hopefully to reduce parent pickup and drop-off, and to educate the public about the economic health, congestion, climate equity, and other benefits of multimodal transportation. So, on the right side of this slide, this data is taken from census data and trip diary data. So it's sort of a slow moving change, and the 2023 census data is not out yet, so I have not been able to update this slide. And also we will be conducting the trip diary survey. So hopefully here in the next few months, I'll be able to change those numbers. On the left side of the slide, this is the TDM program that we've been working on. And so one of the big changes is we now have a Safe Routes to School coordinator, which is wonderful. And we've also, obviously, we did the Bloomberg project. So those programs and educational are reflected in the left-hand slide. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Are there any questions at this time? All right, thank you. Please continue.
Thank you.
That is it for the KPI update.
All right, thank you. Next item, West Route 66 operational assessment update. Staff member Mandiam Gonzalez.
Thank you, Chair Vasquez and members of the board. So before I begin this update, I do want to provide some project reminders and some background since it's been a while since we've seen you. So we're just going to jump right in. As a reminder, this is an operational assessment, and it is based on data analysis, which is comparing the operational impacts currently and what we're expecting in the future. As many of you are aware, there's a lot of growth happening out on West Route 66, so that will certainly increase demand. This document is what we consider a foundation to making decisions on further planning processes, design, and engineering, and it will be project specific. At the end of this assessment, this document will guide the City of Flagstaff and ADOT on the best approach moving forward. The city has allocated 419 tax initiative funds for West Route 66. And of course, ADOT is our roadway owner, so there's real importance to find a project that works for both jurisdictions. And just to kind of compare this to a transportation plan, as we're mostly familiar with, those are obviously a lot more robust. They have long-term visioning processes. So just a little background on what exactly we're looking at as part of this assessment. Here's our full study area. We wanted to look beyond the corridor itself. We've created these 4 distinct segments, kind of ranging from rural to urban. They're going to have very different impacts and very different growth in the future. So looking at our project schedule, we are doing good so far. We're still on schedule. We've completed the items that are listed on the left, and all of those items are feeding into task 5, which we are currently in. And this is to develop those assessments and or alternatives and assessments, further assessments, I should say. All right, so I'm going to jump into what's been done since last time we talked. Yeah. We did conduct some public outreach. We sent out 30 notification letters to tribal governments. This is a standard practice that MetroPlan does, and it's really to seek any information or concerns regarding cultural or historical resources in the area. No concerns were given to us as of yet. We also reached out with notification letters to local businesses along the corridor. We received a handful. A majority of those comments were really to do with customers accessing their businesses via left-hand turns in or out. We also provided stakeholder presentations and a public survey, which I will jump into next. So the public survey was requested by our project advisory group. And I should have reminded you all of this. This project, while we are leading it, we are working with a multi-jurisdictional group to identify that best project, because it is partially in county. Like I mentioned, ADOT owns the roadway. And of course, we're within the city as well. So that project advisory group is made up of not only our technical advisory committee or TAC members, but also key staff within jurisdiction that have, the knowledge that we need to move this process forward. All right, so back to the survey. We received 119 responses, and this survey was intended to understand not only the community's concerns along the corridor, but it also asked them questions related to policy-based criteria. That was kind of being developed at the same time with the PAG, and that was really to help, and PAG, sorry, Project Advisory Group. That was really intended to inform them when it came to scoring and weighting these policies. As part of that survey, we had a lot of open-ended comments as well. We received 157 comments. As you see, 10% were related specifically to infrastructure, 20% were related to bike and ped. Positive sentiments. A lot of folks believe that West Route 66 has less traffic and it's a way to avoid Milton, quickest way to I-40. Many folks mentioned that they liked the open space and the feel of the roadway with the nature and trees and such. They felt the suburban feel was a good mix of nature plus buildings. Some folks say it's rarely congested, which was interesting comments to receive. And of course, easy access to many of those local businesses along the corridor. Looking at the negative sentiments, none of these are a big surprise, and a lot of these actually align with the data that we have collected so far. So the need for more bus stops and routes along the corridor. There's obviously gaps in our sidewalks and our bike infrastructure along the corridor. Drivers not yielding to pedestrians and crossings. The lack of that middle left turn lane, slowing traffic and potentially causing crashes. A lot of folks also mentioned the intersections of Thompson and Northwestern, which we are seeing in our data heavily as well. And speeding was mentioned. So the project advisory group, they took this information from the community and helped to inform them on their weighing of these different policy and criteria. So the 4 areas on top are our policy buckets, as we call them. So they're broad policies, operations, elevated bike and ped, and cost effectiveness. And this came from a large list of plans and policies from all of our member organizations. Within those 4 categories, we do have sub-criteria, and which was also scored as part of this process. And here's just a kind of a quick example of what this scoring process is going to look like as we begin to initiate it, as we further down our project selection. So we take our data, we bring it in with the criteria that was scored and developed along with the policy, the overarching policy score, and do some finessing, and then we get our final score. So this will be implemented throughout the conversations in hopes of finding a project that works best for not only the community, but the corridor as well. The second item that the project advisory group is working on is reviewing the regional plan scenarios and transportation solutions. So here's, sorry. So on the left is the regional plan. We have our scenarios A through E. Then we had this list of transportation solutions that we worked with the PAG in refining. And so what we wanted to do was compare the regional plan solution or regional plan scenarios to the transportation solutions. And really that was for us to be able to learn more about what's happening on the road and what would change as land uses change. I'm not going to go through the spreadsheet seen here, but this is essentially what we got as the output. As you see, we're looking at all sorts of data here. We've got vehicle miles traveled, corridor travel times, level of service for both vehicles and pedestrians, mode share, etc. So this is going to help us, once again, inform that best project. And as we narrow this down to something that is reasonable and meets everybody's expectations, then we'll continue through that criteria weighting process. And then the last item that the PAG is working on is a basis of design document. So this document is part of the project scope, and it meets ADOT's requirements for reaching that 15% design, which is illustrated on the left-hand side. The right-hand side is the comparison of ADOT's design standards versus the city standards. And what we're looking at here is where do standards match and where don't they match? And this will be a piece that helps us through future conversations as we get into identifying that project and allow us to see if any one agency has flexibilities and what we can do to meet the project needs. And so with that, that's the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for the presentations. Are there any questions by board members? Member McCarthy.
I just have a quick comment. I live out that way, and there's several ways that I can get to my house. And one is go down Route 66 and turn left on Thompson. And I've lived there about 21 years. And I can tell you that the traffic now compared to a few years ago is way heavier. So there's definitely a lot of new growth out there, and there's no doubt in my mind that there's a need for your project and eventually some construction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I enjoyed your presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments by board members?
I believe we have a member of the public on this item.
Excuse me. In that case, if we have public comment, now would be the time to come forward and provide public comment. Thank you.
I'm a bit caught off guard here, so if my procedures are not quite up to par, please excuse me. My name is Billy Gilmore, and I am a resident farther west than Mr. McCarthy is. I live past Railroad Springs in a neighborhood just north of that called Crestview. Both the Crestview neighborhood, Railroad Springs, and then the multi-story condo apartment complex that's on the north side of Route 66. All three of those residential areas depend on exiting either on Northwestern Street or on Railroad Springs Boulevard. So you can imagine the number of people that live in those three areas And if they are exiting all at the same time between 7 and 8 in the morning to either go to school or work, and are making a left-hand turn to come into Flagstaff for those destinations, the wait time is often such that you want to leave your house about 6 in the morning. That's repeated again, of course, as people are returning in the afternoons or at lunch, depending on what their needs are, and trying to turn into those neighborhoods when other people are trying to get out in the opposite direction. So understanding those needs of residences, if you just go beyond Northwestern Street to Woody Mountain Road, west of Woody Mountain Road is where Timber Sky is. And Timber Sky is bringing in hundreds of new residences. If you continue on Route 66, you have construction completed with Grace Church and numerous new commercial businesses once you get to Flag Ranch Road. If you turn south on Flag Ranch Road to access I-40, that entire area is exploding with development and commercial businesses, rental storage areas where the traffic is going to be not just as residences, but a constant demand for transportation movement. Without any traffic lights, with a very limited number of road signs along the way advising motorists of incoming traffic, possible pedestrians. This section of road between Woodlands Boulevard and Flag Ranch Road, particularly up to Woody Mountain Road, is getting almost dangerous. One of, I believe, ADOT's projects within the last year or so was to put in a middle lane in the middle of a highway where there is one lane going in each direction with a double yellow line. It's on a curve, it's on an incline, and another curve. And the sight lines along that area are extremely limited, either due to rock cliffs, vegetation, or a complete drop off as it is in the Woodland Mobile Park. This lane in the middle of the road, I tried it one day as I was coming out of my neighborhood on Northwestern, turning left into traffic coming both ways at me. Speed limit's 45, average speed is 55. It includes any type of vehicle you may imagine, from just sedans to commercial vehicles to semis exiting I-40 to come in on Route 66, construction vehicles. I even saw a front loader one time. So I'm exiting. I turned left into that lane and I stopped. It's extremely short. Traffic coming at me 50, traffic coming at me 50 miles an hour. Both directions, they're blaring horns at me because they don't understand that I am parked in a legal incoming lane, merging lane. And I panicked. I just sat there until I could compose myself enough to merge on in to the traffic coming into Flagstaff. Fortunately, no accidents have happened to my knowledge yet in that area, but I would hate to see any type of accident be the reason for some type of action that we can take sooner than the projected timeline. I understand the large amount of time that's needed for projects like this, i.e. the Lone Tree Overpass. Data was collected 10, 15 years ago. Plans have been made that were necessary. However, if I encourage you to drive that stretch of 66 between Woodlands and Woody Mountain to experience that yourself, a few suggestions could be possibly lower the speed limit, even to 35, put in more highway signage showing incoming or turning traffic, put in designated lanes that are specifically for continuing traffic that merges in from neighborhoods, trim some of the vegetation that's impeding drivers' ability to read road signs in that area, which is hard to do in Flagstaff when we have so much rain and vegetation grows at such a rate. But there are things I think that I would like to ask for consideration for more immediate actions in this stretch, so that as our town continues to grow, that we do it in a safe manner, that we do it in a way that can accommodate our bus systems, our school bus systems, and possibly commercial businesses also that go into that area. Thank you very much for your time. And I appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you for telling us those stories. They're really important as we go do our advocacy work that allows us to paint a picture of why these projects are so important. So thank you for your comment today. Are there any other comments by board members? Member McCarthy.
Well, she brings up a really good point. We may have to look at some short-term solutions as well as the long-term solutions if that's practical. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is Metro Plan happenings. Ms. Kay Morley.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. It's been a long summer without seeing you, so a lot has happened, but hopefully you've been reading the 3 bullet briefings along the way. So I don't think anything I have here is new if you've been paying attention to those, but we've got a number of grant updates. The city submitted for the Active Transportation Infrastructure Improvement Program, the ATIP program, as did the county for 2 different projects. That is a grant that does not have a lot of money in it. So we often see grant programs that have, hundreds of millions of dollars, and this grant program nationwide has about $60 million in it. So it's going to be very competitive, but we're looking forward to hearing back about those potential awards this fall. The city also submitted a Safe Streets and Roads for All Planning and Design grant, supplemental planning, to take projects identified in the Active Transportation Master Plan through a concept design process that would better set them up for construction in the future. This grant program, the supplemental planning program for the Safe Streets and Roads for All, has the opposite problem of the ATIP program in that there is a lot of planning money available in this one. So we think that this grant has a very good chance, and Chris Fair at the City of Flagstaff wrote it and did a fantastic job. And then Game and Fish is working on submitting very shortly another wildlife crossing pilot program. They were successful in their first ask for the one that is just north of Munns Park. This one will be closer to Kachina Village if they are successful. So fingers crossed on that. In terms of other updates, we had a long conversation this spring about lighting standards. We heard from members of the public on that, particularly ADOT lighting standards. The city has updated theirs to be compliant with the dark skies policies of the city and the county. And so we've submitted a request to ADOT to consider updating their lighting standards to a similar standard. And we are waiting to hear back on that. I'm going to invite Kim back up here for a minute to talk about events because there's a lot going on and she is leading these efforts.
Thank you. Okay, so first you see we will be out at the Festival of Science. I believe that's on Saturday, the 21st of September. And we will have a table trying to highlight the education between the cone of vision. And so the difference in the visibility of someone who's driving 15 miles an hour versus someone who's driving 30 miles an hour. And so we have some activities for the kids and parents that will show up for that. We will be hosting, in partnership with the City of Flagstaff and Flagstaff Biking Organization, we're hosting a league certified instructor course through the League of American Bicyclists. And we will be having a master trainer from the league out to head that. That will be in October. And hopefully we can increase the number of bicycle educators in the city. We also have 3 law enforcement officers going through that course as well, which would be really great. Of course, I've already mentioned our Safe Routes to School program. We're kicking off observations at all of the all of the schools, actually, just to kind of get a feel of how kids arrive and leave school. And then Walk to School Day is coming up. I believe October 2nd. It's the first Wednesday in October, and that is part of to come Flagstaff Walks. I'm trying to bring that back. Jack Welch was very instrumental in that program, and so I'm trying to bring that back. It'll be a week in October, the first week in October, highlighting how wonderful it is to walk in town, and there will be various. I'm working on the schedule as we know, and I promise I will let everyone know when that happens. But Walk to School Day occurs during that week, and many of the elementary schools will be participating, so be careful with all the kiddos walking that day. And then the last, okay, so our Bloomberg project is, no, where is it? Left. Here we go. Okay. Our Bloomberg project is up. So Flagstaff is now on the National Bloomberg Art. I know, it's so exciting. I will be presenting the final project next month, but we wanted to show you this slider function, which is very cool. So this is before, and this is after.
Oh, nice.
So you notice we had snow on the peaks before, and now there's no snow. So anyway, we thought that was really fun. Then we thought you might enjoy seeing this. So anyway, thank you so much for your support. And okay.
Can I ask real quick,
Oh.
the slider function?
Oh, yeah.
Can we get that from you so that I can put that on my social media?
Yes, and you can just, I mean, we can give it to you, but you can also just Google Bloomberg Asphalt Art. And I think we're on page 2. You end up clicking like North America, because there's worldwide programs, but Flagstaff is there, you'll see it. But we'd be happy to give you the link, not a problem.
If you could send me the link, that'd be great.
100%, yes. I'm sorry, any other questions? I'm happy to answer any.
No, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Oh, sorry, board members. Big
Just Chair Vasquez and members of the board, I just want to say thank you for all the hard work you're doing, to get Metro Plan planning initiated and, just following through and, a lot of education is going along with it. And I'm really proud to, see that going on right now. So we are behind you and, I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, are there any other questions or comments? No actions, correct? Okay, then we can move on to the next item, which should be items from the board. Board members may make general announcements, raise items of concern, or report on current topics of interest to the board. Items are not on the agenda, so discussion is limited and action not allowed. Are there any items from the board? No? Okay, in that case, looks like our next scheduled executive board meeting is October 3rd, 2024. Unless anybody has anything else, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.